हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू माय चैनल डीजी लर्निंग। आज मैं आपके लिए बीएड के नोट्स लेकर के आई हूँ। पेपर 2 दैट इज कंटेम्प्रेरी इंडिया एंड एजुकेशन के यूनिट 3 दैट इज एजुकेशनल स्टेटस इन इंडिया टिल 1947। ठीक है। पेपर 1, पेपर 4, पेपर 5 एंड ईपीसी फर्स्ट सेम के सारे ही पेपर्स के नोट्स मैं आपको दे चुकी हूँ। बस पेपर 2 बचा है, यूनिट 3 दे रही हूँ, इसके बाद यूनिट 4 एंड यूनिट 5, 2 यूनिट्स आर लेफ्ट ना। ओके, वी विल डू इट। जल्दी ही हम उसे भी कंप्लीट कर लेंगे। ठीक है, सो लेट स्टार्ट। पेपर 2, कंटेम्प्रेरी इंडियन एजुकेशन, यूनिट 3 दैट इज एजुकेशनल स्टेटस इन इंडिया टिल 1947। टिल 1947 इस ये यूनिट के अंदर में हम तीन पीरियड्स के पढ़ने वाले हैं। एंशियंट पीरियड, मिडिवल पीरियड एंड मॉडर्न पीरियड। ये तीन के हमें इसके अंदर में पढ़ना है। ठीक है, लेट अस स्टार्ट। During the ancient period, two systems of education were developed, that is Vedic and Buddhist. The medium of language during the Vedic system was Sanskrit, while those in the Buddhist system were Pali. ये फर्स्ट हम पढ़ रहे हैं एंशियंट पीरियड के। आई एम सॉरी, मैंने यहाँ लिखा नहीं है। ये फर्स्ट जो है ये हमारा एंशियंट पीरियड है। ठीक है, एंशियंट पीरियड। आई एम जस्ट रीडिंग इट फॉर यू। आप स्क्रीनशॉट लेकर के आप इसे लिख सकते हो। ड्यूरिंग द एंशियंट पीरियड टू सिस्टम्स ऑफ एजुकेशन वेर डेवलप। दो सिस्टम ऑफ एजुकेशन डेवलप किए गए थे। एक था हमारा वैदिक और एक था हमारा बुद्धिस्ट। ठीक है, उस टाइम पे जो हमारा मीडियम ऑफ लैंग्वेज था वैदिक सिस्टम में वो संस्कृत था, और बुद्धिस्ट सिस्टम में जो मीडियम ऑफ लैंग्वेज था वो पाली था। ओके, ड्यूरिंग दोज टाइम्स एजुकेशन वॉज ऑफ वेदास, ब्रह्मणास, उपनिषद्स एंड धर्म सूत्रस। ठीक है, from the Rig Veda onwards, our ancient education started with the objective of developing the students not only in the outer body but also on the inner body. The ancient education focused on imparting ethics like humility, truthfulness, discipline, self-reliance, and respecting all creations to the students. The education was imparted in ashrams, gurukuls, temples, houses. Sometimes pujaris of the temples used to teach students. The education system of ancient India has some special features and uniqueness which was not found in any other ancient education system of the other countries. The education was mostly given in forest under the blue sky, which keeps the student's mind fresh and alive. During ancient times, people used to live in a simple life and doing their work with devotion and hard work. जैसा कि हम लोग सभी जानते हैं, पहले का जो एजुकेशन सिस्टम था, पहले हम क्या करते थे। पहले हमारे इस तरह से स्कूल्स नहीं होते थे। बच्चे अभी स्कूल गए हैं, शाम में घर वापस आ जाएंगे, दिन में घर वापस आ जाएंगे आफ्टर 6 आवर्स ऑफ स्कूल्स, वैसा नहीं होता था। पहले गुरुकुल सिस्टम था। गुरुकुल में एक बार बच्चे जहाँ चले गए हैं वहाँ पे आप देखोगे आइदर द एक किंग का बेटा हो या फिर एक कोई भी पुअर पर्सन का बेटा हो, ऑल आर सिमिलर देयर। सबको इक्वली ट्रीट किया जाता था, है ना। सबको इक्वली ट्रीट किया जाता था और सब लोग वहाँ रहते थे, वहाँ सीखते थे कैसे एक दूसरे को रिस्पेक्ट करना है। एवरीथिंग दे लर्न फ्रॉम दैट ओनली। ओके, now comes to the aim of education. The main objective of education was to equip the students with a good quality of education. The education mostly focused on the enrichment of culture, character, and personality development. It is personality development, comma nahi hoga. And cultivation of noble ideals. The objective was gaining the mental, physical, and intellectual personality of students to make the students' future ready and survive in any situation. In any situation means चाहे वो कोई भी situation है, they can survive. ऐसा उन लोगों को तैयार किया जाता है. This was the aim of education of ancient period. Okay, now we are coming to the characteristics of education. हम जितना भी पढ़ रहे हैं ये सब हमारा ancient period का ही है. Okay, now next. During the ancient period, the state government and the people did not interfere in designing curriculum, payments of fees, regulation of teaching hours. There was a strong bonding between teacher and student. Every student was allotted with one teacher and more emphasis was given to the student-teacher relationship. Each student used to meet to meet teachers personally to learn and gain instructions from them. During ancient times, royal families as well as the king of states used to donate their wealth to improve the education system and quality. The syllabus was designed in accordance with the demands of that era. At that time, students used to leave their houses and went to live with their gurus until their education was completed. During the early Vedic period, the women's education was also given more emphasis. The education focuses on the physical and mental development of students. The course duration was about 10 to 12 years as there was no books. So students used to memorize all things. Memory played a crucial role during learning. The education was imparted in forests away from cities and people to give students a pleasant and silent environment of study. ठीक है, तो इसमें भी आपका वही चीज़ बताया गया। गुरुकुल में स्टूडेंट्स जो बच्चे रहते थे वो अपने घर से दूर 10-12 साल घर से दूर रह के वहीं पे सीखते थे। मेन तो ये है कि वहाँ पे सोचिए कोई बुक्स नहीं रहता था, जो भी आपके गुरु सिखा रहे हैं दे यूज टू मेमोराइज इट, और वही आपका जो मेमोरी था उस टाइम पे बहुत ही क्रूशियल रोल प्ले करता था। ठीक है, नाउ कम्स टू द करिकुलम। Curriculum plays an essential role in the education system. It was dynamic and not static. It was made up of different stages. The fundamental goal of building a good curriculum was to develop students physically and mentally. The curriculum consists of 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas, Upanishads, Darshanas, Puranas, Tarkashastra. The 6 Vedangas were Siksha, Chandas, Vyakarna, Nirukta, Jyotisha, and Kalpa, while the Darshanas were Nyaya, Vaisesika, Yoga, Vedanta, Sankhya, Mimamsa. Algebra, geometry, and grammar were also given more importance at that time. Panini was famous in the domain of grammar at that time. The curriculum of the Buddhist system consists of Pitakas, Abhidharma, and Sutras. Besides this medicine, Vedas were also given importance. Hindu learning was a part of Buddhist learning, although more emphasis was given to Buddhist learning. Both the systems were going hand in hand at that time. The education was totally through orals and debates, and the exams were conducted every year. The education system of the ancient period focused on subjects like warfare, military, politics, religion. जिस टाइम पे जिस चीज़ की ज़रूरत होती है हम उस टाइम पे वही चीज़ पे फोकस करते हैं। ठीक है, एंशियंट के टाइम पे ये सारे चीज़ थे। एंड हियर द करिकुलम, आप करिकुलम और ये सिलेबस में कंफ्यूज मत हो जाइएगा। ठीक है, करिकुलम का एक पार्ट होता है सिलेबस। करिकुलम में जिस तरह से हमारे यहाँ अभी हम जो पढ़ते हैं, करिकुलम में आपका जो सिलेबस है, आपके करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज़ है, आपके फिजिकल एजुकेशन एक्टिविटीज़ है, वॉट एवर इट इज़, जो भी एक्सपीरियंस बच्चे सीख रहे हैं स्कूल में, ऑल दीज कम्स अंडर करिकुलम। ठीक है, तो ये चीज़ ये जो दिया गया ये सारे को मिला के दिया गया, ये पूरे करिकुलम के बारे में बताया गया कि वहाँ पे उस टाइम पे क्या क्या होता था। ओके, नाउ कम्स टू द मेथड ऑफ लर्निंग। ये सारे अभी हम जो भी पढ़ रहे हैं ना, सारे के सारे एंशियंट पीरियड के हैं। ठीक है, डोंट गेट कंफ्यूज, सारे एंशियंट पीरियड के बारे पढ़ रहे हैं। इसके बाद जब मिडिवल पीरियड के बारे पढ़ेंगे मैं वहां पे आपको लिख के दे दूंगी दैट दिस इज द फ्रॉम हियर द मिडिवल पीरियड स्टार्ट्स। ओके, मेथड्स ऑफ लर्निंग। द टीचर्स एट दैट टाइम पेड स्पेशल फोकस टू देयर students and teach them according to their knowledge and skill level. Teaching was basically via orals and debates, and the different methods were as follows. First, at that time books were not there, so the students had the habit to learn and memorize all the things taught in the class, and teachers also helped them in memorizing. Second, the students used to deep dive into the concept taught by their teachers and explore new methods to learn it. Third, listening, contemplation, and concentrated contemplation were some new methods of exploring the way of learning. The teachers used the storytelling method to teach the students. Students used to ask questions about the topics taught by the teachers, and these topics were discussed and then answered to the students. The education of that time mainly focused on practical knowledge of the topics taught in the class. The students got plenty of knowledge through seminars and debates conducted at frequent intervals. Now comes to the educational institutions. Gurukul was the hometown of teachers where students come after completing their initiation ceremony and learn until the completion of their study. The parishads or academies were the places of higher learning and education where students learn through discussions and debates. Gosti or conferences were the places where the kings of the states used to invite scholars from every institute to meet and exchange their views. Ashramas or hermitages were the other learning centers where students from various parts of the country used to come and learn from saints and sages. Vidyapeeth was the place of spiritual learning founded by the great Acharya Sri Shankara in places like Srigiri, Kanchi, Dwaraka, and Puri, etc. Agrahas was an institution of Brahmins in villages where they used to teach. Viharas were the educational institutions founded by the Buddhists where the students were taught the subject related to Buddhism and philosophy. Okay? Now comes to the higher educational institutions. Higher educational institutions, that is Takshila or Takshila. Takshila was the famous center of learning including religion and teaching of Buddhism. In ancient times, it was famous for his higher education learning comprising of subjects like ancient scriptures, law, medicines, sociology, astronomy, military science and 18 silpas, etc. The well-known scholars from the university were great grammarian Panini. He was an expert in a subject of grammar and published his work on Ashtadhyayi. Chanakya, who is skilled in statecraft, both studied here. Students from Kashi, Koshala, Magadha, and also from different countries flocked into the university despite a long and arduous journey. Takshila was an ancient Indian city currently situated in northwestern Pakistan, was the well-known center of learning and has been declared as an archaeological site and World Heritage by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that is UNESCO, in 1980. 1980 में ही उसे डिक्लेयर कर दिया गया था. ठीक है, वो एक आर्कियोलॉजिकल साइट है. सो दिस वाज द तक्षशिला. नाउ कम्स टू द नालंदा. ये सारे फेमस ये के बारे हम लोग पढ़ रहे हैं यूनिवर्सिटीज. Now comes to the Nalanda University. When Xuanzang came to Nalanda, it was called Nala, which was the center of learning in many subjects. The subjects used to come here from different parts of the country and the world to study here. Different subjects were taught, including the Vedas, fine arts. It was fine arts. It's fine arts. Okay. Vedas, fine arts, medicine, mathematics, and astronomy. Zhuangzang itself became the student of Yoga Shastra. Nalanda, which is currently situated in Rajgir, that is in Bihar, India, was also declared as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. The other famous institute around the ancient times were Vallavi, Vikramshila, Ujjain, and Banaras. Now comes to the advantages. First point, the system focuses on the all-round development of student. Second, more emphasis was given to practical knowledge rather than theoretical knowledge. है ना. अब आप ही देखो ना, पहले मेमोराइज किया था, अभी क्या है, टीचर्स पढ़ा रही हैं, हम नोट्स कॉपी डाउन कर रहे हैं, वी आर मीन्स लर्निंग इट, समझ रहे हैं, खुद से लिख रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो पहले वो पूरा चीज सब कुछ प्रैक्टिकली समझाया जाता था, कुछ थ्योरी पार्ट में नहीं था. ठीक है. Third, the students were not just involved in bringing the ranks, but their main focus was on knowledge. Classrooms were built in forest which provide a pleasant study environment to the student. आप भी बीएड करने के बाद जब टीचिंग करने के लिए जाओगे तो कभी ट्राई करना. फॉर एग्जांपल बहुत सारे हमारे जो को करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज़ होते हैं आजकल स्कूल में, लाइक इको क्लब, साइंस क्लब एंड ऑल, तो कभी कुछ सिखाने के लिए ना उन्हें स्कूल के जो भी गार्डन साइड या उस तरफ में होते हैं ना, स्कूल में आपके काफ़ी ट्रीज़ वगैरह, कभी ट्रीज़ वगैरह के नीचे बैठा के पढ़ाना. ग्राउंड, सॉरी मैंने गार्डन बोल दिया, इट्स ग्राउंड, जहाँ पे बच्चे प्ले ग्राउंड वगैरह वैसे बहुत सारे जगह होते हैं, कहीं एक जगह ग्रास वगैरह में बैठा करके पढ़ाने की कोशिश कीजिएगा. इट्स रियली काफ़ी ही प्लेजेंट स्टडी होता है और काफ़ी अच्छा भी लगता है, और उस इन्वायरमेंट में ना पढ़ने में मज़ा भी आता है. ट्राई करना. There was no pressure laid on the students related to studies so that they can learn effectively. The government did not interfere with the formation of curriculum. Kings at that time helped in the development of education. Okay, these were the advantages. Now comes to the disadvantages of education during the ancient period. First point is women were not admitted to the gurukuls. ये सबसे ज़्यादा डिसएडवांटेज था कि उस टाइम का एजुकेशन सिस्टम में women's were not admitted to the gurukuls. ओनली जो भी मेल मेंबर्स है वही जाते थे और वही वहाँ पे सीखते थे. ठीक है. एजुकेशन सिस्टम, सॉरी मैंने एजुकेशन बोला था, आई थिंक सो. या डिसएडवांटेजेस ऑफ एजुकेशन सिस्टम. देयर वाज अ कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन एज ओनली क्षत्रियास वाज अलाउड. एकलव्य वाज नॉट गिवन एडमिशन टू द गुरुकुल. जैसा हम पढ़े हैं एकलव्य के बारे में, हम लोग सभी जानते हैं. ठीक है. सो ही वाज नॉट गिवन एडमिशन टू द गुरुकुल. तो ये था हमारा कास्ट सिस्टम, कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन जो था वो उस टाइम पे बहुत ही ज़्यादा था. ठीक है. नाउ कम्स टू द मिडिवल एजुकेशन. एंशियंट एजुकेशन जो था वो हमारा यहाँ ख़त्म होता है और अब हम स्टार्ट करते हैं मिडिवल एजुकेशन. ओके. ड्यूरिंग द 8th century Anno Domini, that is AD, a huge number of Mohammedan invaded India. Mahmud Ghaznavi captured India and set up a large number of schools and libraries in the country by the looted wealth. Later, Muslim leaders established their permanent empire in India. They brought a new system of education. New system of education. The ancient education system was drastically changed. The Arabs and Turks brought some new cultures, traditions, and institutions in India. In that, the most remarkable changes was the Islamic pattern of education, which was different from Buddhist and Brahmanic education system. The medieval age education system primarily focused on the Islamic and Mughal system. Aim of education. The main objective of education during the medieval period was the spread of knowledge and the propagation of Islam. The objective behind this era of education was to spread Islamic education, its principles and social conventions. The purpose of the education system was to make people religious minded. Okay, now comes to the characteristics of education. The rulers helped in the spread and development of education. They helped in the establishment of different educational institutes and funded it. Big landlords also gave them some wealth in the development of institutes. There was no control of rulers over the educational institutes and also to their managements. The student-teacher relation was also good, like Buddhist and Brahmanic period, although students did not live with their teachers at that time. Teachers took interest in learning at that time. Teachers were used to teaching students individually. Okay. Now comes to the curriculum. During that time, books were not there. Therefore, the students were used to write on takhtis. The stress was laid on teaching the student from the beginning, that is, teaching them first alphabets and then words. Calligraphy and grammar were the most important subject taught during those days. Students also learned paharas, that is, multiple of numbers, जिसको हम लोग अभी tables बोलते हैं, and also they memorized it while learning. Arabic and Persian were the main languages of communication, and these languages were important for the students who wanted to get higher post. The recitation of the Quran. The recitation of the Quran was made compulsory. The student used to learn the The students used to learn the Quran by heart as this was an important part of their curriculum. The students at their early ages were taught to recite the first 13 chapters of the Quran as a poem. I, Ibn Sina, an Islamic Persian scholar and a teacher, write that students during the age of 14 should be given the choice of selecting their favorite subject for masters, that is reading, manual skills, literature, medicines, geometry, trade, and commerce. There were two types of education during medieval times, like secular and religious education. Religious education consists study of the Quran, Muhammad and his invasions, Islamic laws, and Islamic history. The secular education consists of the study of Arabic literature, grammar, history, philosophy, mathematics, geography, politics, economics, Greek language, and agriculture. Now comes to the methods of learning. First point, orals, discussions and recitations of the lesson taught were the main methods of learning at that age. Second point, Emperor Akbar encouraged the students to focus more on reading and writing and to reform the scripts. He wanted the education system to be systematic and advised teachers to first teach students about the knowledge of alphabets, then words knowledge, and then sentence formation. जैसे भी होता है. Third point, more emphasis was given on the practical education. And the last point is there was no half yearly or annual examination fixed for students, but the students were evaluated based on the practical situations of life. Now comes to the education institutions between the medieval period. First is the Maktabs. Maktabs were the center of the primary education for the children of general people. Along with religious education, students were also taught subjects like reading, writing, and arithmetic. They were also taught some romantic literature of Persian, example Lala Majnu, Yusuf Zulaikha, etc. Along with practical education, letter writing, applications, and accountancy were also taught in maktabs. Now comes to madrasas. After completing the primary education in maktabs, the students were sent to the madrasas for higher education. Madrasas were the centers of the higher learning, and Emperor Akbar did remarkable development in the education of the medieval era. Along with religious and practical education, Akbar stopped the tradition of the Islamic religion and instructed to teach Hinduism and philosophy in many madrasas. The subjects such as medicine, history, geography, economics, political science, astrology, philosophy, and mathematics were taught in madrasas. Akbar made subjects like Vedanta, jurisprudence, and Patanjali compulsory for Sanskrit students, those who are taking Sanskrit. Now comes to the important educational centers. First comes to the Delhi. Delhi में क्या क्या थे? Let's see. Nasruddin established Madrasa Nasira under the region of Shiraz, Alauddin Khilji, and established many madrasas with renowned teachers in them. Mughal Emperor Humayun established many big institutions of astronomy and geography in Delhi. He also introduced institutions where subjects like Arabic, Persian, grammar, philosophy, and astronomy was taught. Now comes to Agra. Sikandar Lodi established many madrasas and maktabs in Agra and attracted many students from other countries to come and study. Akbar made Agra the center of culture, fine arts, and crafts. Next is Jaunpur. Sher Suri completed his education in one of the education institute of Jaunpur city. The main subject of teaching were political science, warfare, history, and philosophy. Ibrahim Sharki set up many madrasas in Jaunpur. Next is Bidar. Muhammad Jawan had established many madrasas and maktabs in this city, and it became the famous center of learning. The city consists of a library that contains 3,000 books on subjects like Islamic theology, culture, philosophy, medical science, astronomy, history, and agriculture. Okay. Advantage. Practical education was given more importance. Students and teachers relations were good. Students were taught from the basic, and rulers also supported the development of education. This was the advantage of education system of the medieval period. Okay, next is the disadvantage. The disadvantages of the education system of medieval period was religious and Islamic education was given more importance, and the student aimed to focus on leadership for ruling the country. Now comes to the modern education. अभी तक हमने ancient पढ़ा, medieval पढ़ा और अब हम modern पढ़ने जा रहे हैं. In the middle of the medieval age, the British invaded India and started to capture it. The modern education was introduced during the British Empire. In the 1830s, Lord Thomas Babington Macaulay introduced the English language. The subjects and the syllabus were limited to some extent. The main aim of modern education of the British was to spread Christianity. As time passed, education started to develop and entered into the modern era, that is, in the 21st century, the era of science, technology, and innovations. And the demand and the need for education still remains the same as it was in ancient and medieval times. In the modern era of science and technology, the industrial sector is increasing day by day. As demands increases, our education sector also needs to change and adapt to that environment. Aim of education. The objective of modern education was to inculcate values in students such as equality, secularism, education for all, and environmental protection, etc. To understand the culture as well as people of our country, every student must be provided at least a minimum level of education, and also to provide education to the people who cannot afford it, to prepare the students with the ever increasing demands. This was the aim of education of the modern period. Now comes to the Charter Act of 1833. Features of the Charter Act 1833. The company's commercial activities were closed down. It was made into an administrative body for British Indian possessions. The company's trade links with China were also closed down. This act permitted the English to settle freely in India. This act legalized the British colonization of the country. The company still possessed the Indian territories, but it was held in the trust for His Majesty. Now comes to the provision of the Charter Act of 1833. India became a British colony. The Governor General of Bengal was redesignated as the Governor General of India. Thus, the country's administration was unified under one control. Second point is Indian Law Commission. The Act mandated that any law made in India was to be put before the British Parliament and was to call Act. As per the Act, an Indian Law Commission was established. Third point, Indians in government service. This was the first act that gave permission for Indians to have a share in the country's administration. Okay. Now comes to the significance of the Charter Act of 1833. It was the first step in the centralization of India's administration. The ending of the East India Company commercial activities and making it into the British Crown's trustee in administering India. Codification of laws under Macaulay. अब हम लोग Macaulay के बारे में पढ़ने वाले हैं. Macaulay's Minutes 1835. Lord Macaulay, that is Thomas Babington Macaulay, 1800 to 1859, was a British historian, essayist, orator, and statesman. He was the Commissioner of Board of Control of Indian Affairs in the British government. 1834, he Deputed of India as a law member in government, that is Governor General, Executive Council, and later on appointed as the Chairman of General Committee on Public Instruction. The Oriental or accidental controversy was at its peak when Macaulay reached India. William Bentinck, the Governor General of India, sought the advice of Macaulay reaches on the implications of General Clause 43 of the Charter Act 1813, thereby settling the controversy. Next comes to the Macaulay's view. On February 8, 1835, Macaulay presented his historical minutes on education, in which he made a bitter attack upon English language, literature, and culture and vilified it. He attached importance to the education of the higher classes and thus emphasized. Next is the merits of Macaulay's Minute. A straightforward policy of education. First point. Second point, definite purpose of education. Third point, lead to the establishment of more English school. Fourth point, English is accepted as a medium of instruction. And the last point is promotion of filtration theory. Okay, now comes to the demerits of Macaulay's Minutes. First point, lead to the closure of Sanskrit Pathshalas and Arabic madrasas. Second point, cause the setback of Oriental learning. Third point, it neglected the local language. Fourth point, it abandoned mass education. And the fifth point, it opposed Indian culture and religion. Okay, this was the Macaulay's Minutes. Now we are going to study about the Wood Dispatch 1854. Wood Dispatch 1854. In connection with the renewal of the Charter of English East India Company, the British Parliament constituted for Parliamentary Committee in 1853 to review the education development undertaken by the company in India. Sir Charles Wood, a member of the English East India Company, was appointed as the president of committee. The committee considered the issue of aim of education, medium of instruction, education of masses, and other aspects in depth, and gave important recommendation in the shape of dispatch on July 19, 1854. Charles Wood was the chief architect of the dispatch in July, and hence it became popular in July. Chief architect of the dispatch in July, hence it became popular by the name Wood Dispatch in 1854. The dispatch was actually written by the famous thinker John Stuart Mill, a clerk of East India Company at that time. The dispatch was considered to be Magna Carta of modern education in India. The dispatch was considered to be the Magna Carta. It was the first authoritative declaration on the part of the British Parliament about the educational policy to be followed in India. Now next comes to the following were its major recommendations. The British government should take the direct responsibility of education in India. First point, the aim of English education in India should be importing of Western knowledge and its material blessings, promotion of intellectual and moral. Second point, charter and supply the East India Company with reliable and capable public servant. Charter. Third point, English should be accepted as a medium of instruction, but due importance should be given to the vernacular language of two districts. Fourth point, a separate department of education should be established in every province with a director of public instruction along with the inspector of schools for effective supervision and administration. Next point, emphasis should be given to the spread of the mass education by opening more schools. Next, last point is the university should be given to establish at Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. Now comes to the merits of Wood Dispatch. First point, the Wood Dispatch started a new era in Indian education system by clearing defining objective of education. Second point, it presented comprehensive scheme of education embracing primary, secondary and higher education. Third point, the principle of downward filtration theory was discarded by Wood Dispatch and encouraged the mass education. Fourth point, the Wood Dispatch emphasized on the vocational system. I've written this 2 times. एक बार मैंने यहाँ cut कर दिया है, ठीक है, तो मैं ऐसे नहीं read कर रही हूँ. Next point is the last point. The Woods recommended scholarship for the poor and deserving student. Now comes to the demerits of Wood Dispatch. The dispatch in reality promoted Western literature and knowledge of government offices, showed preferences for person educated in English. The Wood Dispatch could not manage the education system well. The mass education did not become reality, and the dispatch was more interested in promoting Western knowledge and culture. Now comes to the Hunter Commission. Hunter Commission. Introduction. Hunter Commission was a commission appointed by the British government to review the progress of education in the country. Since the Wood Dispatch of 1854, Hunter Commission was set up in 1882 under the chairmanship of William Hunter. This commission emphasized its recommendations on its primary and secondary education. Next is the aims and objectives. To inquire into the manner in which effect had been given to the principles of the Dispatch of 1854, to assess the position of the primary education in India and to suggest measures for its reform, to inquire into the position of the state institutions and their importance, to evaluate the work of missionaries in the field of education. The Commission also undertook an inquiry into the condition of secondary education and to suggest measures for its improvement. Now comes to the recommendations of Hunter Commission. First is the primary education. Primary education should be regarded as the education of the masses. Education should be able to train the people for self-dependence. Second is the secondary education. The administrative responsibility on secondary education should be handed over to the efficient and educated people. English should remain as medium of instruction in the secondary stage. Next is the higher education. While giving grants and aid to the colleges, the number of teachers, expenditure of the college, efficiency, and local needs must also be kept in mind. Such varied and vast curricula should be arranged in these colleges so that the students must have the subject of their choice and aptitude. Next is the women education. First point, arrangement of public funds, appointment of lady teacher, appointment of lady inspectress, free education for women, and different curriculum for girls. Next is the Muslim education. The Commission recommended that every effort should be made to popularize Muslim education. Special funds should be allocated for it. Next is the religious education. Religious education of any sort should not be given in the public schools. Religious education may be imparted in the private institutions and the government shall have nothing to do with it. Strength of Hunter Commission. It was the first commission which gave wide and comprehensive recommendations. This commission gave some important suggestions for improvement of Muslim education. The progress in primary school from 1882 to 1901 was displayed by number of students in them, rising from 22 million in 1882 to 32 million in 1901. Next is the weakness of Hunter Commission. First point, transfer of the control of primary education to the inexperienced local bodies. Second is failure to introduce compulsory primary education. And third is inadequate grant from the provincial government, as only 1/3 of the total expenditure was given as a grant to the local bodies. Next comes to the Sadler Commission. I think so this is the last point of this unit. Sadler Commission. In 1917, the Government of India appointed a commission to study and report on the problems of the Calcutta University following the enactment of the Universities Act of 1904. The commission was mainly constructed with the express motto to inquire into the condition and prospects of the University of Calcutta and to consider the question of a constructive policy in relation to the question it present. Okay. The commission was appointed under the chairmanship of M. E. Sadler, who was the Vice Chancellor of the University of Leeds. The Sadler University Commission also included two Indian members, namely Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee and Ziauddin Ahmed. The Sadler University Commission reported that the condition of the secondary education need to be improved in order to improve the standard of university education. The commission visited all the university centers and after 17 months submitted its report in 1919. It is a very long and significant report. The report consists of 13 volumes giving a critical and comprehensive survey of educational problems of secondary, collegiate and university education in India. Although it deals with the Calcutta University only, the problem that it studied were more or less common to the other Indian universities also. The suggestions, therefore, were equally applicable to other universities in the country. Hence, the report of the Commission had far-reaching of consequences upon the development of university education in India as a whole. Now comes to the recommendation of the Sadler University Commission. In the opinion of the Sadler University Commission, it was not possible to bring about revolutionary changes in the field of higher education without making changes in secondary education. Therefore, some fundamental changes were suggested in the secondary education for the sake of improving the university education. Second point, the Sadler University Commission hence recommended that the dividing line between the university and the secondary courses should be drawn at the intermediate examination rather than at the matriculation, and government should create a new type of institution called as intermediate colleges. The curriculum of these intermediate colleges should constitute courses related to arts, science, engineering, industrial education, etc. After clearing the intermediate examination rather than the matriculation examination, the student would be entitled to enter the university. The duration of the degree course after the intermediate stage should be limited to 3 years. For this, two different branches was made in the intermediate colleges. For the eligible students, the provisions of honors degree, and for the general students, there was a provision of pass course. Next point, Board of Secondary and Intermediate Education consisting of the representative of government, university, high schools and intermediate colleges be established and entrusted with the administration and control of secondary education. Next point, the Commission also recommended less rigidity in the framing the rules and regulations of the university. It is also recommended the establishment of an inter-university board for coordinating the activities of different Indian universities. Autonomous institutions were to be given more encouragement. Next is the centralized residential. Teaching universities were to be encouraged. These institutions were able to be given autonomy to facilitate their day-to-day working. Women education was to be encouraged in a big way. The establishment of a special board of women education in the Calcutta University, besides many other facilities that would help more and more women to take up course in school, colleges and universities. Provisions of facilities was to be made for training teachers and setting up the Department of Education at the University of Calcutta and Decca. The Sadler Commission recommended for the centralized unitary teaching autonomous bodies. A unitary teaching university was recommended for Decca so that the burden of students can be reduced from the Calcutta University. Further, the Sadler Commission also emphasized the growth of colleges in the towns, and it encouraged the growth of new university centers so that the higher education could be propagated properly. Okay, now comes to the impact of Sadler education. Its impact. First point, it led to increase in the number of universities. Due to the suggestion of the Sadler University Commission, a number of new universities were opened in the country. Of these, the university at Patna, Osmania, Aligarh, Decca, Lucknow, Delhi, Agra, Nagpur, Hyderabad, and Annamalai may be mentioned. The number increased up to 30 within 1930. It led to starting of teaching work by the universities. It not only increased in numbers, teaching work also started in different universities. It is worth mentioning that the function of the first three universities established in India, namely Calcutta, Bombay and Madras, were confined to affiliation, examination and conferring degrees. Teaching was the function of degree colleges, and there was no provision for postgraduate education. But after the recommendation of the Commission, the number of teaching universities and residential universities increased. Most of the newly established universities were teaching universities. Next point, The recommendations of the Sadler University Commission proved fruitful in the development of academic standard. Academic activities increased in the universities and college with the introduction of honors courses. The studies of different Indian languages started and facilities for higher studies and research were also created. The post of professor was created in the universities, and the process of inviting learned faculties from abroad to broaden the academic outlook was also started. The Department of Education was opened in Calcutta and Decca universities. Next point, development of internal administration of the universities can also be seen due to steps proposed by the Sadler University Commission. Internal administration of the university improved due to the formation of University Court and Executive Council in lieu of previous Senate and Syndicate. Besides these, creation of the Academic Council to deal with academic matters such as curriculum, construction, examination, research, etc., greatly helped in improving the academic standard of the university. As suggested by the Commission, an inter-university board was also set up in 1925 for the connection and coordination among the different Indian universities. And now comes to the last point. Also, the Sadler University Commission had a provision for students' welfare. For the first time, attention of the universities were directed towards students' welfare. A board of students welfare was formed in each university. And this was the last topic of our paper 2, Unit 3, that is educational status in India till 1947. यूनिट 4 मैं आपके लिए नेक्स्ट वीक तक लेके आऊंगी, ठीक है. यूनिट 4 एंड यूनिट 5 2 यूनिट्स आर लेफ्ट. फिर हमारा फर्स्ट सेम का जो सिलेबस है वो कंप्लीट हो जाएगा, isn't it? Okay. So now, yes, one more thing. अगर आपको ये वीडियो थोड़ा सा भी हेल्पफुल है, if this video is helpful for you, then please like, share and subscribe my channel. Okay. Thank you for watching.